Hello there, very good evening and welcome to the news tonight here on Rajya Sabha TV, your one stop for the day's top stories. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines. Karnataka finally agrees to release Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu, but only for irrigation purposes. Assembly resolution asks government to take the appropriate decision. Terrorists attacked BSF and army camps in Baramulla late on Sunday night. One BSF Jawan is killed in the gunfire exchange. Terrorists escape into the darkness. National security advisors of India and Pakistan talk over the phone, discuss security situation along the border, even as Pakistan violates ceasefire again on Monday. Hungarians vote overwhelmingly to reject the EU's mandatory migrant distribution plan, but low turnout renders result invalid. Prime Minister Orban asks the EU anyway to take note of the result. And India regains the #1 test spot in ICC rankings after beating New Zealand by 178 runs in the second test at Eden Gardens. Top story this evening. The Karnataka Assembly on Monday adopted a resolution asking the government to take appropriate decision on the release of Kaveri water, but only for the purpose of irrigation. The resolution came hours after the Supreme Court asked Karnataka to explain the continuous defiance of its orders to release water from the Kaveri to neighbouring Tamil Nadu.
Hours after the Supreme Court asked Karnataka to explain the defiance of its orders to release Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu, the State Assembly authorized the government to take an appropriate decision. This clears the deck for the release of water to Tamil Nadu for farmers in the Kaveri basin for their crops and drinking requirements. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah also stressed on the importance of having to obey the Supreme Court in a federal structure.
The resolution has said by the Assembly that we should release water to our farmers, as well as take such decisions in the interest of the state.
However, the opposition to the release of water continues.
No mention about the Supreme Court order. There is no mention about the releasing of the water to Tamil Nadu according to the direction of Supreme Court. So, interpretation is entirely different. Interest of Karnataka means interest of the farmers, interest of the drinking water problem.
Earlier, the Supreme Court had slammed the Karnataka government for twice defying its order on the Kaveri water issue. The court had asked the state to release 6,000 cusecs of Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu on September 30th. Meanwhile, the centre has sought modification of the Apex Court order to set up the Kaveri Water Management Board. It said the decision to form the Kaveri Water Management Board is the Parliament's prerogative. The centre's U-turn comes 2 days after it had readily agreed to the court's direction to form a board by October 4th.
We were very disappointed that the Government of India's Attorney General said that we will form the board. He should have taken more time and said that I'll come back to the court. But anyway, I hope the Government of India will think about it, and I think they should, for the moment at least, we are hopeful that due to the public pressure building up, that they will oppose the formation of the Kaveri Management Board.
On the other hand, both DMK and AIADMK have attacked the Modi government for changing its stance, charging the centre with making the move with an eye on Karnataka Assembly elections in 2018. Pranav Goswami's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Now to Jammu and Kashmir, where security forces are on high alert after an army BSF camp in Baramulla came under a terrorist attack on Sunday night. One BSF Jawan was killed in the gunfire exchange that followed. Pakistan also violated ceasefire 4 times on Monday, even as Home Minister Rajnath Singh said that Indian forces were giving a befitting reply to firing from across the border.
It was 10:20 p.m. on Sunday night when the quaint town of Baramulla in Jammu and Kashmir woke up to a series of gunshots. Terrorists are believed to have attacked adjoining army and BSF camps in the district about 50 kilometers from capital Srinagar. The gun battle between the army and terrorists lasted for about 2 hours, resulting in the death of a BSF Jawan while injuring another critically. However, due to pitch darkness and the presence of civilians in the town, terrorists managed to escape.
There is a speculation the militant could have been from 2 to 4. But the kind of response that was from the army was remarkable, and that's why militants couldn't enter the army camp. They escaped by 2 reasons. Number one, there was a lot of there was pitch dark, and number 2, there was a lot of civilian houses that were around. And if army would have effectively fired, there was apprehension of civilian casualties. That's why militants, taking advantage of the civilian shields, managed to escape.
There was an incident in which some militants attacked 46 Battalion RR base in Baramulla, where BSF boys were also on guard duty. And it was because of the alertness of Nitin Kumar, a BSF Jawan, that everyone could be alerted, and the attempt of the Fidains could not be, it was repulsed and it could not be successful.
जी ये 10-20 पर ये फायरिंग स्टार्ट हुई और लगभग 1:30 बजे ख़त्म हो गई और बहुत शेलिंग भी हुई और मेरे हिसाब से ग्रेनेड अटैक भी हो गई।
भी बहुत ही खौफजदा है, सभी लोग अंदर ही बैठे हैं, बहुत ही खौफ है इधर लोगों में क्योंकि इतनी ज़बरदस्त फायरिंग हुई है रात को।
Meanwhile, Pakistani troops violated the ceasefire 4 times on Monday, targeting forward posts and civilian areas along the LOC in Poonch district, drawing retaliation from Indian troops. 2 civilians suffered minor injuries in the firing and shelling. Home Minister Rajnath Singh, who is on a visit to Ladakh, said security forces have been asked to be on high alert and are giving a befitting reply to cross-border firing.
हमारे सेना और सुरक्षा के जवान जो है मुंहतोड़ जवाब दे रहे हैं, कोई बधाई के पात्र हैं।
The atmosphere remains tense in Jammu and Kashmir and in states sharing a border with Pakistan after the surgical strikes conducted by the Indian Army across the LOC. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
But India and Pakistan have started engagement in order to diffuse the tension following the Uri terror attack. The NSAs of both countries spoke over the phone to discuss the situation along the line of control and the political fallout from it. This is being seen as part of Pakistan's efforts to ease the situation following India's diplomatic wins at the UN and more recently at SAARC.
India and Pakistan are engaging with each other in a bid to ease tensions. The national security advisors of both countries, Ajit Doval and Nasir Janjua, had a telephonic conversation on Sunday night. They discussed the current situation and also the responses to war machines moving around the border. As Pakistan kept up the Kashmir rhetoric, it was Sartaj Aziz who broke the news, possibly to give an impression that the prospect of talks was not over yet. However, it is understood that the two NSAs stuck to their positions on both Kashmir as well as terrorism.
बार-बार हो रहा है, पाकिस्तान की ओर से ये बात तो बार-बार नहीं होना चाहिए और यहाँ बातें भी करते हैं और सीज फायर भी करते हैं, इसलिए हम चिंता अवश्य करेंगे, लेकिन हम जवाब देने के लिए सक्षम हैं। पाकिस्तान रास्ते पे आएगा इसी उम्मीद करते हैं।
China, on the other hand, also sent overtures to India after once again scuttling India's efforts at the United Nations against Masood Azhar. Chinese ambassador to India Luo Zhaohui met National Security Advisor Ajit Doval on Monday morning. Though it was a courtesy call, it's also understood that the ambassador tried to convince the National Security Advisor that the technical hold on Masood Azhar was not permanent and there was room to engage further.
China is also cooperating with Pakistan on the issue of terrorism, but till now it is against India's interest. But given the fact that China stresses on economy, it will be interesting to see that how far it cooperates with Pakistan on terrorism. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television in New Delhi.
We'll continue tracking developments on that front. Meanwhile, the stock markets had an optimistic reaction to Tuesday's monetary policy review, ending over 1% higher on Monday. The BSE Sensex ended up 377 points at 28,243, while Nifty gained 127 points to settle at 8,738. The rise came on the back of the eased cross-border tensions, comparatively eased cross-border tensions. Sparkling auto sales also stoked hopes of a good festive season ahead. Several auto manufacturers, including Maruti Suzuki, Mahindra & Mahindra, Tata Motors and Eicher Motors, ended 1 to 4% higher. However, IT majors Infosys and TCS ended with losses on the back of a stronger rupee. Meanwhile, the newly constituted 6-member Monetary Policy Committee held its first meeting on Monday. The committee, headed by RBI Governor Urjit Patel, is tasked with the monetary policy review, and the resolution on the MPC will be placed on the RBI's website.
Tuesday's monetary policy announcement will be etched in history as the first where the interest rate decision would be taken by a panel and not by an individual. The newly constituted 6-member Monetary Policy Committee has 3 members each from the government and the Reserve Bank. The government nominees are Chetan Khate, professor at the Indian Statistical Institute, Pami Dua, director Delhi School of Economics, and Ravindra H. Dholakia, professor at IIM Ahmedabad. While RBI nominees are Governor Urjit Patel, Deputy Governor in charge of Monetary Policy R. Gandhi, and Executive Director Patra.
The economic development or investment will not alone come from lowering of the interest rate, because we need to create demand in the economy. That is more important for attracting investment, and that the government is already doing through various infrastructure investment projects.
The Monetary Policy Committee will target to keep inflation at 4% with an upper and lower tolerance level of 2% for the next 5 years. August retail inflation eased to a 5-month low of 5.05% against 6.07% in July. Wholesale inflation, however, ascended to a 2-year high of 3.74% in August.
मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जो है वो बिल्कुल भी नहीं बढ़ पा रहा है। नई इन्वेस्टमेंट जो पर्टिकुलरली मैं प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात कर रहा हूँ वो बिल्कुल भी जो है वो नाम मात्र के लिए जो है वो आ रहा है। तो जॉब्स नए क्रिएट नहीं हो पा रहे हैं। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि जो अब आने वाली मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी है उसमें नए गवर्नर ऐसा संदेश देंगे कि इंटरेस्ट रेट को कम करें।
Each of the 6 members on MPC will have 1 vote. In case of a tie, the RBI governor will have the final vote in deciding the rate. He, however, cannot veto a majority decision.
Since January 2015, the Reserve Bank of India has slashed repo rate by a cumulative 150 basis points. The repo rate currently stands at 6.5%. But the banks, however, have passed on only around 80 basis points to the customers. The banks in their defense say that the pressure of burgeoning bad loans has deterred them. Reporting from Delhi with camera person Ashwini, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
In other news now, the Supreme Court on Monday awarded 25 years in prison to Vikas Yadav and his cousin Vishal Yadav, who were convicted for the abduction and murder of 25-year-old Nitish Katara in 2002, while sentencing their associate Sukhdev Pahalwan to 20 years in prison. The Yadav cousins and Pahalwan had appealed in the top court against the Delhi High Court order, which had sentenced them to a 30-year jail term without remission. The Supreme Court said that the 2 sentences of 25 years and 5 years would run concurrently and not one after the other as the High Court had ordered, effectively reducing the prison term for each of them by 5 years. Meanwhile, the victim's mother, Neelam Katara, termed the verdict as her biggest victory. 25-year-old Nitish Katara was kidnapped and burnt to death in Ghaziabad in 2002. This for dating Bharti Yadav, the sister of Vikas Yadav and daughter of politician DP Yadav.
हाँ, वो अब क्वांटिटेटिवली कहें तो राहत है, मगर ये तो उनका, क्योंकि क्वांटिटेटिव तो वो भी है कि इट्स अ कॉन्स्पिरेसी। 34 भी क्वांटिटेटिव है, दूसरा 2001 भी क्वांटिटेटिवली मेंटेन किया गया है। उन्होंने ये नहीं कहा कि कॉन्स्पिरेसी नहीं थी या एविडेंस नहीं डिस्ट्रॉय किया था। बट हाँ, अगर उनको लगता है कि 5 साल कम हो गई तो कंसोलेशन प्राइज में खुश रहे, फैसले से मैं संतुष्ट हूँ।
And now let's give you some more national news updates in Nationwide. The Supreme Court on Monday imposed a fine of 25,000 rupees on Delhi Health Minister Satyendra Jain for failing to file an affidavit on time on what the city government was doing to fight chikungunya. Reprimanding the minister, the apex court said that the Aam Aadmi Party government makes false claims about what they can do, but that they don't do anything when people are dying. The court's rebuke comes at a time when hospitals in the national capital are overflowing with thousands of patients suffering from chikungunya and dengue. Dozens of people have lost their lives due to the mosquito-borne diseases. The Samajwadi Party on Monday declared candidates for 9 assembly seats in Uttar Pradesh. Prominent among those who figure in the list are Congress turncoat Mukesh Srivastava, who has been given a ticket from Prayagpur seat of Bharej, and Aman Mani Tripathi, son of Amar Mani Tripathi, who is in jail in connection with the murder of poet Madhumita. Tripathi has been given ticket from Nautanba seat in Maharajganj district. The Kerala Assembly witnessed yet another stormy session on Monday as the opposition continued to protest against the government over the issue of self-financing in medical colleges. The opposition claims that there are irregularities in the agreement between the government and the medical colleges. The discussion called by the Speaker on the issue also failed, following which the opposition staged a walkout. The National Investigation Agency arrested a 31-year-old man on Monday in Tirunelveli district of Tamil Nadu for his suspected links to terror group Islamic State. The man, named Suhani, had been living in Kerala for the last 20 years. He reportedly came into contact with people having links to the IS. He fled after the NIA arrested some of his associates in Kerala a few days ago. With a quick break here, we'll be back with the international news in a bit. Stay with us.
Gyan Chopper is the ancient version of Indian snakes and ladders. This intriguing game was popular among the old, the young, and the rulers as well. The chopper has its origin in the Jain philosophy. It tells the story of virtue, symbolized by the ladders, rewarded, while the vices shown by the snakes are punished. Each square, in turn, also narrates some message of wisdom.
All right, let's get to international news now. And the United Nations has once again appealed for a halt in fighting for Syria, in Syria, in fact, to enable humanitarian aid to reach the besieged people of Aleppo and other war-torn cities. The appeal comes in the wake of Syrian and Russian airstrikes that have resumed in Aleppo elsewhere.
As fighting returned to Syria's Aleppo, the United Nations has called for a halt to bombing to facilitate humanitarian aid to reach the people living in the war-torn area. Syrian government and allied forces have advanced towards Aleppo to pursue their week-old offensive to take back the rebel-held part of the city.
Meetings taking place, as you probably know. There are some meetings at the very time now, but the humanitarian aspect now is definitely the priority. We must get some people evacuated, we must get some aid in. But that can be done only if the bombing stops.
The overnight airstrikes by Russian and Syrian forces hit where it hurt the most, in hospitals in the already battered city. The city's main trauma hospital, M10, in eastern Aleppo, was badly damaged by airstrikes on Saturday and had to close. The relentless bombing also hit water supplies.
Озабочены тем, что происходит в Сирии, как выполняются резолюции Совета Безопасности ООН во всей их полноте, озабочены попытками некоторых участников процесса и внутри, и вне Сирии.
It's a matter of determination. Are we going to give up on the Syrians? Are we going to give up on 350,000 people? Never. So the issue is not being optimistic or pessimistic, but not giving up on those people.
International attempts to establish ceasefire to allow in humanitarian aid from the UN have failed. However, other aid groups continue to bring in limited supplies to Aleppo and other cities. The Russia Reconciliation Center in Syria delivered aid to the town of Malula. The humanitarian aid included items such as antibacterial agents, tools and food. The Russia Reconciliation Center also claims that it delivered humanitarian aid to a refugee camp inside Aleppo. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now to Hungary, where a near unanimous vote in a referendum to reject the European Union's mandatory migrant plan was rendered invalid due to a low turnout of voters. But Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban hailed the result as outstanding and said that the EU should take note of it. Here are more details.
In an overwhelming referendum vote, Hungary on Sunday rejected the European Union's plans to relocate refugees and migrants among the member states. Nearly 98% of the voters supported the government's call to reject the mandatory EU migrant quota plan. However, the referendum saw only 43% turnout, falling short of the 50% required to be valid and thereby not making the referendum legally binding. Despite this, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban hailed the result as outstanding and urged EU to take note.
is fontos döntés előtt áll. Most ő áll fontos döntés előtt. Az Európai Unió egy demokratikus közösség. Ma egy tagállamban a népszavazáson résztvevők 92%-a kijelentette,
The poll result signals increased xenophobia in Hungary, a feeling advocated by government through relentless campaigning, where it associated migrants with terrorism. However, despite the biggest and most divisive advertising campaign in Hungarian history, Orbán failed to entice enough voters.
A népnek a jövőjéről van szó, a népnek a jövője érdekében a gyerekeknek, a családoknak az érdekébe kell letölteni, és erre tetves újságoknak elmenni, hát szégyeljék magukat.
The EU plan to relocate 160,000 migrants across the bloc would mean Hungary receiving 1,294 asylum seekers. But Orbán is among the toughest opponents of immigration in the European Union, having sealed Hungary's southern borders with a razor wire fence and thousands of army and police border patrols last year. Stranded migrants were disappointed with the result, but are still hoping that Hungary will change its policy towards migrants.
We have humbly request from these countries, which country close the border nowadays. We just please open the border now. Humbly request, please open the border. We would like to go out. We never do anything wrong in our country. We just cross your border and we would like to save life in Europe. Nothing more than this.
The referendum has no binding legal consequences for the EU, and the invalid result would make Orbán's quest to persuade Brussels to drop the refugee quotas more difficult. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May has announced that the process to trigger Brexit will begin by the end of March 2017. Giving the first glimpse of a timetable for a EU-Britain divorce, the Prime Minister told the Conservative Party conference that she was determined to move on with the process and win the right deal. May also said that the control of immigration will be a priority during negotiations with the EU. The European Union, of course, has welcomed the news, saying it has given much-needed clarity. May had remained committed to Brexit after Britain's shock vote to leave the European Union in June, propelling her to power. Triggering of Article 50 of the EU's Lisbon Treaty will give Britain a 2-year period to clinch one of the most complex deals in Europe since World War II.
I know some people ask about the trade-off between controlling immigration and trading with Europe. But that's the wrong way to look at things. We voted to leave the European Union and become a fully independent sovereign country. We will do what independent sovereign countries do. We will decide for ourselves how we control immigration, and we will be free to pass our own laws.
Meanwhile, in a move that has sent a wave of shock across Latin America, Colombian voters on Sunday rejected a peace deal that had been signed by their president, Juan Manuel Santos, and the largest rebel group, FARC, leaving the state of, in fact, the fate of the 52-year war suddenly uncertain. The president had said that he did not have a plan B in case Colombians rejected the agreement that was reached after 4 years of intense negotiations.
It was supposed to be a historic moment. Last week, President Juan Manuel Santos and Timochenko, leader of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia or FARC, used pens made of recycled bullets to sign a deal ending a 52-year-old war, with FARC even apologizing on national television. But Colombians, it seems, have not forgiven them for the estimated 3 lakh lives lost during the war. The country on Sunday rejected the government deal with FARC guerrillas in a referendum, with 50.24% voting against it. Most of the no voters felt the deal was not hard enough on FARC fighters and were skeptical about them receiving jail for their crimes. After the shock vote result, President Santos says ceasefire will remain in place, and rebels also vowed commitment to peace talks.
Las FARC mantienen su voluntad de paz y reiteran su disposición de usar solamente la palabra como arma de construcción hacia el futuro.
A todas las fuerzas políticas y en particular a las que se manifestaron hoy por el no, para escucharlas, para abrir espacios de diálogo y determinar el camino a seguir.
The verdict on the deal that was reached after 4 years of intense negotiations means it now cannot be implemented. The result is a big embarrassment for President Santos, who had been confident of a yes result, He had said that if Colombians reject the deal, he did not have a plan B and that Colombia would return to war if no vote won. Government and rebels have also repeatedly said that the deal was the best they could achieve and a renegotiation would not be possible. But most of the no campaigners insist on exactly that.
Those agreements that allow complete impunity, including for atrocious crimes, will allow for an economic agenda similar to Hugo Chavez's and will not bring peace in Colombia nor economic or social well-being.
Under the agreement rejected by voters, the FARC's 5,800 fighters and a similar number of urban militia members would have disarmed, handing over their weapons to the United Nations team over the next 6 months and become a legal political party. Rank and file fighters were expected to be granted amnesty, while those involved in war crimes to be judged in special tribunals with reduced sentences. The referendum result has thrown all of those plans into disarray and the future of the country into confusion. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And here are more international news updates in Global Buzz. At least 52 people were crushed to death in Ethiopia's Oromia region in a stampede. This after police fired tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse an anti-government protest that grew out of a massive religious festival. Oromia, which happens to be one of the country's most politically sensitive regions, has seen months of sometimes deadly demonstrations demanding wider freedom. The Nobel Prize in Medicine has been awarded to Yoshinori Ohsumi for his discoveries on how the body's cells detoxify and repair themselves. The 71-year-old Japanese cell biologist will receive the prestigious 8 million Swedish krona award for locating genes that regulate the cellular self-eating process known as autophagy. Dr. Ohsumi's work is important because it helps explain what goes wrong in a range of illnesses from cancer to Parkinson's. The Taliban has launched a coordinated assault on the city of Kunduz in Afghanistan, attacking from 4 directions and entering the city itself. The attack began at around midnight and fighting is still underway in and around the city. Kunduz, which fell briefly to the Taliban a year ago, has in fact seen repeated bouts of heavy firing. Cricket now, in India has regained the #1 spot in Test cricket after beating New Zealand by 178 runs in the second Test at Eden Gardens. After setting a mammoth target of 376 for victory, India bowled out the visitors for 197 runs in their second innings to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series. New Zealand were off to a confident start with opener Tom Latham scoring 74 runs, but spinners Ashwin and Jadeja once again provided important breakthroughs as Mohammad Shami also chipped in with late wickets. All 3 bowlers picked up 3 wickets each.
It was a complete all-round performance by the team. The bowlers stuck it out in the first innings. You know, those extra runs in the end with Saha batting there and Shami and Bhuvi contributing. It was very important to get those extra runs. I think we ticked all the boxes. We were put under pressure. We expect that from a side like New Zealand. But it took character to bounce back every time, and that's exactly what the boys did.
And here are more sports updates in SportsBeat. 5-time world champion Viswanathan Anand played out an easy draw against Eugenie Tomashevsky of Russia in the 6th round of the Tal Memorial Chess Tournament. The draw keeps Anand at the 3rd spot with 3.5 points with 3 rounds remaining. India's campaign at the ATP China Open came to an end in the opening round with both Leander Paes and Rohan Bopanna crashing out of the men's doubles event along with their respective partners. Bopanna and his Canadian partner were shocked by the Spanish duo of Rafael Nadal and Pablo Carreño Busta in straight sets, while Paes and Germany's Andre Begemann were ousted by the American-Australian duo. Japan's Kei Nishikori came back from a set down to defeat American Donald Young in the first round of the Japan Open. The US Open semi-finalist withstood an impressive performance by Young. And in another game, 4th-seeded Marin Cilic beat France's Benoit pair. That's all we have for you on the news tonight. Thanks for joining us.